We are going to now cross live back to Kyiv because the Foreign Affairs Minister there, Dmytro Kuleba, is just starting to speak. Let's take a listen.
Ракетні обстріли Харкова, Києва, інших українських міст.
Have seen that combats have intensified in Kharkov and in Kiev. Children are being killed. People are suffering underground and in hospitals. All of this has allowed us to send a clear signal around the world, a strong signal. Russia equals barbarians. I'm calling on all of you to use all your contacts so that everyone around the world know what is happening here. Currently, the entire world is admiring Ukraine and the Ukrainian people, admires President Zelensky. He was offered to leave Ukraine, but answered that he didn't need a ride, but he needed munitions. This is how things have always been in Ukraine, at the darkest hours for our homeland. We have always found the strength within ourselves, and the entire world has been witness to this, and the impossible has become possible. For years, Putin has been a bandit who tried to frighten the entire world, and the entire world tried to find ways to enter into dialogue with him, who even offered him money. And yet, if truth be told, everyone wanted to put him in his place, and yet no one could find the inner courage to do so, and yet Ukraine has found this courage within itself. Ukraine has overcome these difficulties and has shown that Putin deserves to be punished for his actions. Everyone working in business who for years was nourishing illusions that the war could be wrought in Ukraine. All these people have to be held responsible. We have been hearing all the analyses from our partners pertaining to the Donbass crisis. And I remember what the world's reaction was during the first 24 hours of this invasion. There were many who thought that Ukraine would fall. They thought that we would not be able to hold out. Our ambassador even heard reactions that stated, why give aid to you since you will not be able to hold out for more than 24 hours? But the last days have shown that Ukraine has been able to prevail, and the entire world has been able to change the point of view. All of those who were afraid of Moscow have changed their attitude. And so what has happened? Well, everything that has happened is thanks to our armed forces and thanks to our diplomatic efforts under Zelensky. 24/7, we have been working unrelentlessly in order to transform these emotions that have overwhelmed the world into concrete steps and measures. During the early days, I was called to share emotions and empathy, and I said, I do not need your compassion, your empathy. I need Russia to be isolated, and I need ammunition. Thanks to our honesty, thanks to our capacity to say things as they are, We've seen that sanctions have been adopted, sanctions against Russia, and this has been done thanks to the Ukrainian people, a people that has not been afraid to stand up to the challenge. The armed forces and our partners are doing everything to isolate Russia. We are calling for military help right now. At this very moment, fuel, munitions, military equipment are on their way to Ukraine so that we can push back the invaders, so that we can put an end to the Russian threat, a threat that threatens the entire world. We are on our land and we will defend it. This is a just and patriotic war for us. I am being honest with you. Putin has not been broken yet. He is looking for a military solution to this conflict. He is striving for a military result for his own benefit. He is throwing more and more troops and convoys against us and has orders to shoot civilians and blow them up. All of this has been documented, all of this has been recorded, and we will make sure that all these war crimes do not go unpunished. We will work with international courts and tribunals to guarantee this. But right now, we need something else. We need to stand fast, even if it is extremely complicated. The enemy has already been broken. Their morale is broken. Russia is already suffering because of the impact on people's standards of living and of the isolation it has been targeted by. But we need to stay strong. We have to undergo all these difficulties and all these challenges. But Ukrainians will never be broken. And this is our ultimate and existential struggle for us, for the Ukrainian people. This must be a struggle that will lead to victory. And I'm sure that we will win. We have opened up a second front, a diplomatic front line. The whole world has rallied behind us and is putting pressure on Russia, is imposing heavy sanctions on Russia. Investments are being pulled out of Russia. This is our second diplomatic front, which is supporting us, which is allowing us to stand fast and to continue to fight. On this day, the 1st of March, the situation is as follows. Yesterday was a historic day for us. The President Zelensky signed the EU accession act. Certain European allies supported our request to join the EU. And now we need to make the last steps to destabilize Putin. And I'm sure that this decision will be taken and that we will do everything we can for this decision to be approved. The political history of President Zelensky, thanks to the support for the support for Ukraine joining the EU, this will be a door that will open our road to prosperity. Now, when it comes to military support, I can't tell you very much about this, but we are receiving a lot of aid, a lot of help. We are accepting helmets, bulletproof vests, military equipments, artillery. diplomats and military officials are strengthening our air defenses thanks to defensive aircraft. Just half an hour ago, I still had doubts that this would happen, but we managed to do this. These decisions are being taken. I cannot unveil the list of all the countries that are supporting us militarily, because this would not be good for our security. But there are javelins, there are combat equipments, 50,000 grenade launchers, munitions, bulletproof vests, Stinger missiles, all of this being delivered in large quantities, and these equipments will strengthen our defenses in the hours ahead. We can maybe give you some examples that will show you the unprecedented level of support, this strength of our second diplomatic front. Finland, a neutral country, has supported us militarily, and this is the first time they have done this in the history of their country. The last time this had happened was in 1939, when the USSR invaded Finland. This was a turning point during the Second World War, and we all know this. And since then, Finland has never supplied anyone with military aid. But this is something that has changed. Sweden has also decided to provide military support. Sorry, Finland has never supported anyone militarily, whereas Sweden had supported Finland in 1939. Norway has accepted a request to support all of those who are not part of NATO by sending 2,000 combat units. Luxembourg, a very small country, is also sending us munitions. Austria, a neutral country, is sending us bulletproof vests. On top of this, we have also signed agreements thanks to which hundreds of thousands of tons of equipment are on their way to us. We have to stand fast. We need to push back the enemy. We have no right to be broken. It is Vladimir Putin's system that will be broken. Secondly, these sanctions hurt, and so does isolation. You've read the latest news. You've seen what isolation is doing to Russia. Today, Russia is a country that has become barbaric. Large companies around the world are cutting their ties with Russia. They are closing subsidiaries in Russia, and they are cutting off access to their services. What we are witnessing now is a de-Putinization of the entire world. The anti-Putin coalition has rallied together. But all has not been won yet. We need to continue to work and to persuade people. We need to show examples of our defenders, of people who have fallen. But certain actions have been crowned with success, and the Russian Federation deserves these sanctions, and we are asking the world to strengthen these sanctions and exert more pressure until Putin calls his troops back, until he pays the heavy price for what he has undertaken. We will do everything so that Russia is banished from the world stage. I have already stated that the decision to deconnect Russia from the SWIFT banking system is that this is a decision that will be implemented very soon, and Russian banks that will be decoupled from the SWIFT banking system. We are also asking for a veto and an embargo on the export of Russian oil and gas. The UK, the United States, Australia, Switzerland, all these countries are requesting these sanctions. Switzerland, for the first time, has aligned itself with the European anti-Russian sanctions. Countries that, up until very recently, were still neutral, are rallying together with all of those that are standing up to Russia. Asia, which is very cautious, is also slowly joining this coalition. Singapore is imposing restrictions against Russian banks. Our partners are hitting the Russian central bank hard. The United States, the European Union have done this. Canada has stopped all its financial institutions from carrying out transactions with Russia. Monaco has also imposed sanctions against Russian elites. The United States have kicked out Russian diplomats in order to exert pressure on Russia. All Western services are inaccessible to Russians. Without Netflix, without Amazon, they no longer have access to these services. Yesterday, one of the EU countries' foreign ministers called to say that one of the Russian oligarchs couldn't pay for his hotel room in Europe and was looking for solutions and asked for justice. But justice for him are sanctions. The ruble has been in freefall, and the skies have been closed to Russian aircraft. Sanctions are already heavy and are producing effects, are producing consequences for Russia, and unfortunately for the Russian people, for all the citizens of that country, because they will also suffer and they will feel the impact of the sanctions. Now, they are in shock, but with time, this shock will turn to rage. Humanitarian aid is making its way to Ukraine, is getting here. France, Switzerland, India, Estonia, Lithuania are sending us convoys with humanitarian aid. £140 million have been sent from the UK to support humanitarian aid. This humanitarian aid is vital, because we can see that Russia is destroying in a barbaric manner civilian infrastructure in order to cut people off from water, electricity, and basic services. We are doing everything so that this humanitarian aid can be channeled correctly, so that Ukrainians can have access to drinking water, to basic food staples, to medical supplies. Russia is becoming more and more isolated. A certain number of countries have closed off their airspace to Russian aircraft. Russia can no longer freely travel through the seas and oceans and cannot dock at international ports. Many international players have closed their ports, and international sporting associations have also closed their doors to Russia. Russian singers will no longer be able to take the stage during Eurovision or other competitions and events. The international anti-Putin coalition is moving forward. Ukrainian diplomacy is standing fast and is helping the Ukrainian armed forces. Today, I gave the order to all our ambassadors and to all our consulates to do the following. Firstly, to do everything that's necessary for this war, to work for munitions, sanctions, and humanitarian aid. Secondly, and this is something the diplomats are working on right now, the diplomats have to do everything in order to push back this pro-Putin vision of the world, to fight against it at all levels. And I ask you all to support these efforts.
All right, you've been listening there to a little of Dmytro Kuleba, the Ukrainian foreign minister. Some strong words from him there today. Putin has not defeated Ukraine, he said. He went on to say that he believed that war crimes were being committed in this conflict. And he said that Ukraine will seek justice at the International Criminal Court. First, though, he says, Ukraine still needs more military support and more diplomatic support as well. Well, listening to that speech with me was our foreign editor, Philip Turle. And Philip, what did you make of that? It was really a rather defiant speech, wasn't it?
Let's put it two ways, shall we? I think, yes, definitely a defiant speech and a galvanizing speech for the people of Ukraine to let them know what is going on there, what the international reaction has been. You must remember that Ukraine, or many Ukrainians, may have little or no access to media at the moment. They are hiding in basements in the cold, and they may not know exactly what is going on and how much the international community is behind Ukraine, what the supply of munitions and weapons is, and how Ukraine is being supported by the European Union, the United States, Britain, other countries around the world. So that is the first point here. He was quite outspoken about the risks still being run by Ukraine, saying that Putin has not been broken. He wants a military result for his own benefit, but that Ukraine will not let him get away with war crimes, and that Ukrainians will never be broken. And I'm sure that Ukraine, he was saying, will win. There was a second part to this speech, which was more to do with the diplomatic front from outside. He was welcoming all those countries that have pledged support for Ukraine, munitions, military hardware, particularly singling out Finland and Sweden, saying this was the first time that they had got involved in supporting another country since the Second World War, since 1939. Also Switzerland, for the first time, contributing towards Ukraine's war effort. So I think a galvanizing speech to try to give hope to the people of Ukraine, but underlining the warning there that Vladimir Putin has not been beaten so far.
Philip Turle, thank you very much indeed for your analysis on the programme. And